Maybe you let them know, listen, I'm feeling really tired, I'm feeling depleted, or I'm feeling like we're starting to feel more like roommates than lovers, and it's making me kind of nervous. Talk about it, because awareness really is the first step. Before we can do anything about it, we have to be aware of it. So talk to your partner, let him or her know that you miss him or you miss her. Let him know that you're feeling a little bit disconnected. So make sure that you're communicating openly and honestly. Welcome to Life and Love by Design. I'm your host, Odette Coronel, an accredited professional coach, relationship mentor, NLP practitioner, and coach supervisor. I have guided countless individuals and couples who feel stuck to step out of autopilot and create relationships and lives that feel intentional, joyful, and deeply fulfilling. Tune in every Wednesday where I'll share tools, conversations, practical strategies, and fresh perspectives so you can get more intentional about designing a life and relationship that truly fulfills you. So let's dive in. Welcome back to Life and Love by Design. I'm your host, Odette Coronel, and today's episode is called How to Reignite the Spark in Your Marriage. And I'm very excited about this episode because it's a topic that comes up very often with my clients. I'm a relationship coach and I work with individuals and couples, but it also comes up in my friend groups or with other moms. It's just something that's very common, that idea of losing the spark in the marriage. So today, what I want to talk to you about is we're going to talk about, first of all, what it is that we mean by the spark. And we're going to talk about how it is that we lose it. We're going to talk about why it's important that we keep that spark alive. And then I'm also going to share with you how to reignite the spark in your relationship. So, if you've been married for a while, or if you've been in a long term relationship, do you ever have moments when you feel kind of disconnected from your partner? Maybe you feel kind of bored, not excited to see each other. Maybe you feel a little bit disconnected, like you're not as in tune with each other as you once were. Or maybe you are just kind of going through the motions and you're on autopilot and you've fallen into a routine or a rut. Could be that you're just exhausted from work and the kids or just life in general, and you stopped prioritizing each other. Maybe you've noticed that you're not as affectionate as you used to be. Maybe you don't hug and kiss, or maybe even have sex as often as you used to. These are all examples of losing the spark. This is what we mean by losing that spark. So, if you think about it, in the beginning of a relationship, when we first meet someone, there's a spark, right? That's that chemistry that happens, that attraction that happens. And we're, excited to see each other. We're thinking about each other in between. We're more playful and we're using our imagination because we're like wondering, when are we going to see them again? Or we're wondering, what our future might look like with them. And there's just a physical attraction, but there's also like an emotional attraction, a connection and an attachment. And it's new and it's exciting. But then over time, we've got different kinds of demands in life. We have, like I said before, we've got bills, we've got work, we've got a lot of logistical things because we've merged our lives together. So now we're partners in life, which life can be challenging and life can be monotonous. We're not just spending time together when we're scheduling it for fun, we're kind of spending life together, just doing everyday monotonous things. And over time, that can get a little bit, I don't like to use the word boring, but maybe there's too much certainty in the relationship. And over time, you might start to feel like roommates instead of husband and wife or lovers or romantic partners. Maybe you notice that you yourself are kind of starting to feel low or just starting to feel overwhelmed with life and just exhausted all the time, even outside of your relationship. So we start to feel kind of disconnected, and maybe we stop communicating as much as we used to. Maybe conflicts come up or little annoyances even come up, and we don't address them properly, or we don't really get to a point of repair. We just kind of ignore it. And when we ignore things, they don't go away. They stay there and they fester and could start to build resentment. So that's another contributing factor. You might have some underlying resentment there that is adding to the disconnection. And of course, if you've got resentment and disconnection, you're not going to feel close to your partner. And that's another way that that spark starts to fade. In the beginning, you are boyfriend and girlfriend, you're dating, you're the lover, right? And it's something happens when we go from that to being the husband and wife. Or even if you're not married, but you're in a committed long term relationship, something happens where you're mentally, where you're not like the new person that you're dating, the girlfriend, the boyfriend. And I feel like that identity shift also contributes how you think about each other. That difference in identity contributes to diminishing that spark in the marriage. So if that's happening to you right now, or if that has happened to you at some point in your relationship, it's no reason to freak out. It's totally normal. It doesn't really mean that the relationship is doomed or that, everything you're going to get divorced or something awful is going to happen. But it is something that you don't want to ignore, right? You want to pay attention to it and you want to do something about it. It's really important to keep that spark alive because essentially, when we talk about spark, we're talking about that emotional connection, that excitement, the attraction, the playfulness, that connection. And we need that. That's essential. It's not optional, it's essential in order to be in a relationship with someone long term. It's what's going to really insulate your marriage or your relationship against all of the challenges that you're going to face in life. It's that emotional connection, that emotional intimacy, which of course leads to sexual intimacy. You can't have sexual intimacy without emotional intimacy and emotional connection. They're all related, they're all connected, right? They all build off of each other. So they're all equally important in order to have a long-term satisfying and successful marriage or relationship. And that special bond and connection and spark that you have with each other is something special that's reserved just for the two of you. It's not something that you have with your friends or any other family member or hopefully anybody else in your life. It's something special that you share together and you want to be able to maintain that because that's what makes you the special person that you are, your romantic partner or your lover or your husband or wife, and not just a friend or a roommate or just a partner. This spark, it keeps the friendship alive. It keeps the fun in your marriage. It keeps that excitement in your relationship. And it really helps to build resilience because you're able to find your way back to each other and you feel like, this is my person. This is a person that chose me. This is the person that I chose. And it just contributes to feeling safe, to those feelings of trust, of feeling accepted and appreciated and validated. All of those things come into play with that spark because again, that spark is about all those forms of connection that I mentioned before. And I get it. It's not easy. I've been married for a very long time and I can remember, especially when my children were younger, I just remember feeling so overwhelmed and so exhausted all the time that I felt like everybody, was wanted something from me. And when it came to my marriage, it was just one more thing I had to do. It just felt like one more thing I had to take care of or one more thing I had to pay attention to. And it was just exhausting. I remember I had moments like that. So I know I get it. And it's totally normal. It's going to happen. Chances are it will happen. It's very rare if it doesn't. But again, you want to be aware of it. You want to pay attention to it and you want to do something about it. So, what can you do? What are the things that you can do in order to reignite the spark in your marriage? Well, the very first thing that I want you to think about is I want you to make sure that you're taking care of yourself. Remember who you are and your own energy, whatever it is that you're going through, that's what you bring to your relationship. So ask yourself, have I lost my own spark? Are you feeling overwhelmed and tired? Are you feeling a lack of self esteem or a lack of confidence? What is it that you're feeling? If you can take the time to really nurture yourself, pay attention to yourself, Make sure that you are giving yourself what you need. Then you can show up in your relationship fully present. Remember, you can't give from an empty cup. So make sure that you're replenishing yourself and you're reigniting your own spark. Are you feeling stuck, afraid of change, or just questioning the way you're living? Many of my clients come to me feeling disconnected, unfulfilled, or simply uncertain about what's next. Whether it's a relationship that's lost its spark, or a purpose that's faded, or patterns that keep repeating. As a professional accredited coach, relationship mentor, and coach supervisor, I support individuals and couples in reconnecting with themselves and each other. Take the first step and book an introductory consultation with me, and together we'll begin designing a life and a relationship that feels authentic, intentional, and entirely your own. And the next thing that I want you to pay attention to is communication. Make sure that you're communicating with your partner a lot, all the time. Be honest. Make sure that you're speaking to each other in a way that's kind and curious. Make sure that you talk about how you're feeling. Maybe you let them know, listen, I'm feeling really tired. I'm feeling depleted, or I'm feeling like we're starting to feel more like roommates than lovers, and it's making me kind of nervous. Talk about it, because awareness really is the first step. Before we can do anything about it, we have to be aware of it. So talk to your partner, let him or her know that you miss him or you miss her. Let him know that you're feeling a little bit disconnected. So make sure that you're communicating openly and honestly. I can't stress that enough. And you build emotional intimacy by sharing your thoughts, your feelings, being vulnerable with each other in little ways. And I spoke in one of my prior episodes about making bids for connection and making sure that you're accepting those bids for connection or affection or attention, whatever it may be. So make sure that you're doing a lot of that, because that builds emotional intimacy, that builds connection. And by the way, watch that episode. I think it's episode 5, which talks about 7 lessons from the 7 principles for making marriage work, because everything in that episode is applies to and is really helpful in keeping the spark alive. So I just wanted to make sure that I remembered to say that. Also, think about it. What worked in the beginning of a relationship? And, we can't go back there. And the key is not to go back there. But if you remember, in the beginning of a relationship, we really paid a lot of attention to each other. So make sure that you're paying a lot of attention to each other, that you're showing affection, that you're flirting, and you're sharing little kisses and little hugs, that you're cuddling, lots and lots of physical touch, lots and lots of non-sexual touch like massages, or rubbing each other's back, just anything, holding hands, all of those things. Every time we touch, those small things really add up. And I also want you to think about pleasure. And what I mean by pleasure is non-sexual pleasure. What are the things that you enjoy that your partner does for you? What do you enjoy doing for your partner? And again, in non-sexual ways. And show each other appreciation. Make sure that you notice what your partner is doing right and that you tell him. Make sure you're not taking each other for granted. Be interested in each other's world. We don't have to have the same interests necessarily. It's fine if we do, but you don't necessarily have to have the same interests. But you should be interested in what your partner is interested in terms of, like, let him or her share with you about their interest. It doesn't mean that you're interested in it as well, but you enjoy hearing your partner speak with enthusiasm about whatever it is that they're excited about. And you want to make sure that you're a part of it, that you show interest in their world. Make sure that you are intentional with your time, intentional with reigniting the spark. Like, you have to, it doesn't just happen. You have to do it with intention, with purpose. You have to decide to do it. Remember, when you're in a long-term relationship, you're choosing each other every single day. So you need to choose to keep that flame alive. You can't just wait because you don't feel like it. You have to create a dynamic or an atmosphere where you are keeping that spark alive, where you are playful and loving and affectionate and you make time for each other, maybe even schedule date nights on the calendar. And you can get creative. I remember again when my kids were little, I didn't have time to go on dates. So we created our own dates and they were at home maybe, but you can create those special moments and you can be creative and you want to add novelty to your life. I know that it's hard when you're in a routine and a lot of life is the same and it's pretty predictable, but you can take a dance class, try something new, a new cooking class, or just go for a walk in a different park than you're used to, or maybe meet for lunch unexpectedly or breakfast. Just add a little bit of novelty to the relationship and, be creative. And the last thing is, I know that I said to engage in plenty of non sexual touch and non sexual pleasure, but I will say that it's really important to prioritize having sex with your partner because a sexual connection really is a form of emotional bonding and it also strengthens that emotional intimacy and that emotional connection. So make sure that you are prioritizing that. So there's a sex expert and author. Her name is Emily Nagasaki. She's got a great books on relationships and sex. And she says, we watch movies and TVs and it shows that we spontaneously see each other and we suddenly want each other and want to like rip each other's clothes off or whatever. And that happens in the movies, but it's very rare that it happens in real life, especially if you've been with a partner for a long time. The main sex organ that we have is the brain. So we have to decide to have sex and to create that desire in our brain first. And sometimes we have to just show up and decide to do it. And then we remember, like, oh, yeah, this is fun. I want to do this. I love doing this with my partner. So don't necessarily, it's okay to schedule it and it's okay to decide, we're going to have sex tonight. There's absolutely nothing wrong with it. But it is a really important part of a long, happy, satisfied marriage or long-term relationship. So please pay attention to that. So I hope this was helpful. Key takeaways: take care of yourself, prioritize yourself and your own spark, communication, emotional intimacy, give each other attention and affection, be interested in each other, be intentional with reigniting that spark, decide to do it, be playful with each other, and remember to have sex. So this week, I'm going to invite you to take one small action to help you reignite the spark in your marriage. So maybe you want to plan a surprise date night or send your partner a flirty text message. Or maybe you want to decide to just reconnect with yourself and take a nice little bubble bath all by yourself. But anything that you can do, be creative, think outside the box, and see what small thing you can do this week to reignite the spark in your marriage or your long-term relationship. And remember, if you want help reigniting the connection and the spark in your marriage, you don't have to figure it out alone. I'm here to help. Just visit odettecoronel.com and book a free introductory session, or just send me an email, lifecoach@odettecoronel.com. I'd love to hear from you. And until next time, remember that your life and your love are yours to design. Thank you so much for listening to today's episode of Life and Love by Design with me, your host, Odette Coronel. If anything that you heard today resonated with you, please take a moment to like and share this episode, subscribe, even leave a rating. This helps us grow and reach more amazing people just like you who are ready to evolve and design a life and a love that they want to live. And don't forget to join the conversation on Instagram at Odette Coronel Coaching. I would love to hear your takeaways. And if you don't have Instagram, you can always email me at lifecoach@odettecoronel.com. Until next time, remember your life and your love are yours to design. See you next week.